Hello YouTube, this is Ben Gessel. Kind of a part, well, not part two. This is a little bit different kind of video here. I'm going to ask you guys a question here, and this is, it might seem like I'm talking about religion again, but not really. This is again, it's all just character stuff. So here's a question for you guys. So what sorts of lifestyle choices do you think will increase someone's arrogance in their lives? How they just interact with people. And, you know, that we might be more disposed, this is one of those kind of personality things. Some of us are more disposed to sense certain kinds of arrogance more than others in different people. So again, what kinds of things, trains of thought, lifestyle choices, do you think make someone more arrogant? Now, look, arrogance, like a lot of other things, it's pretty common. It's not something that's a rare thing. It exists to some extent in basically all of us, except for, I don't know, God, Jesus and stuff. And I mean, very few other people are truly devoid of arrogance. There's a lot of forms of arrogance. I can't stress that enough. It's we might think that we're humble and we're teachable, right? Teachable, open to being taught something from someone else. We might think that's the case, and if we are, the more we are inclined to be that way, I think that's a good way of being. If it is in fact true that what the person is saying, it helps if it's actually true, if it's true, and if it's said in a good way, and all, etc., right? And these are all things that help. But yeah, I mean, being teachable is one aspect of not being arrogant. I think if we're very consumed with our own lives and we don't have as much of a desire, even if we're very down on life and talking with other people in general, but you know, even if that's the case, if we still have a desire to reach out and understand someone better and make those stronger connections, if that were to be something that would open up in the future, right? That desire is really important. It's really important to fight the tendencies to be arrogant. Again, there's some people that are very consumed with things going on in their own lives. A lot of reasons why. It's something that can tend toward arrogance. And I suppose that in a way I might be singling out guys in this regard, but not necessarily. But guys are often accused, younger men, not just younger men, but men that are very consumed with their careers, right? With their little world, right? We can be accused of arrogance very quickly in this regard. I understand. Being a guy and being a little bit arrogant sometimes seem to go hand in hand a little bit. Now, this is a nice little green space. Of course, it's so dark that you can't see it very well. Well, I suppose one of the things about walking at night is it helps you become less afraid of the dark. I've had instances before where I've gone for a few hikes in the dark, and it was so dark that, yeah, it was a little bit scary. A little scary. You know, trees are often more frightening than urban areas. You might think that urban areas are dangerous. Okay, might be reasonable to think so, but for me, trees are just, I don't know, again, that supernatural word, right? Or that whatever you can't explain. But buildings and people are, that's a different kind of ballpark of anxiety, perhaps. It's a bit more realistic, right? Trees are, trails and off in the woods are not so much that way. Anyway, we can kind of give rise to scary thoughts, maybe. But so, again, arrogance. What causes it? What trains of thought cause us to become more arrogant than we already are? I mentioned it can be kind of being a bit self-centered, kind of being consumed with our own lives, not reaching out to other people. Again, in my church, we have something called now ministering. It used to be called home teaching, visiting teaching. Now it's just ministering. Anyway, it's something that helps us to come out of our shells and to care for the well-being of other people in our congregation. And my focus isn't so much on this stuff here, but it's I'm also mentioning this subject because, again, it has something to do with the last video I just made. Is it arrogant for someone to refuse to believe something that someone else holds to be true? It's a good question. Is it arrogance? Is it true that arrogance has something to do with refusing to believe something that is true that someone else believes in? I don't think so, but I think it's important to keep in mind that arrogance actually would be something where something more akin to making snap judgments rather than just hearing someone out for a bit. And even if you hear someone out and you don't like what they're saying or you don't agree with it, it's a mark of humility to, as I've mentioned, this other gentleman that I taught his daughter piano lessons a while back mentioned, it's a good idea to repeat something that someone just said make sure, so that they understand that you really heard what they were saying. And sometimes that can clear things up for someone else. If what someone's saying is particularly hateful or whatever else that you find not very kosher, right? So, okay, it's not arrogance to disagree with someone, but again, it can be arrogant to make those snap judgments, to rush to conclusions. That's a very natural thing to do. So maybe that's just more just being emotional, right? Sensitive. Maybe arrogance is something more to do with. It actually has a lot more to do with the need to win, with this competitive thing, with the need to be seen in a light where you are the victor, where you are the wiser one, where you're the smarter one, where you are more well thought of, when you're taking more seriously compared to someone else who you might, if you're arrogant enough, want to make them look like an idiot, right? Like they're a imbecile, that kind of thing, so on and so forth. That I think is more what we're talking about with arrogance. So I mentioned I'm not very fond of Bill Maher, or Maher, or whatever, Bill Maher. You know why that is? It has a lot more to do with that arrogant side that he has, more than anything else. If he wasn't arrogant like he is, I might listen to him a lot more. And I found that people in real life, outside of the TV that you talk to, often peers, often other people, if that person feels comfortable talking to you about something that's you don't necessarily agree with, but most people you talk to in real life, not on the TV or not on they are. When someone's talking to you face to face, there is kind of a leveling factor. This kind of a most people do want to be not arrogant. Right? Most people do want to be more humane and more pleasant, civil, these kinds of things. But it's an interesting subject because again, I wasn't trying to go for something doctrinal or spiritual or anything, but being arrogant affects all of us. When someone, and sometimes it can result in eccentricities as well. It can take many forms. If you have, say, more conservative, arrogant folks, it can be very frustrating to talk to, I think, because you know what they're going to say sometimes before they say it, and you just try to avoid them a lot of times if you're more moderate or liberal, and you know they have a bad temper. And I know I'm talking about, I can go into a lot more detail with all these other types of personalities and ways of being. But that can be also very vexing as well, I understand, even coming from someone who's more conservative than liberal. So, you know, I don't need to mention the obvious things that are often thought of with arrogant conservatives. But I think it's also important not to lump arrogance with a certain view that you don't agree with. That's important. If you sense that someone is arrogant, that's something different than sensing if someone has a certain view on something that, there are some views, I think, that are implicitly less moral to begin with, or less, we just know that they're either not true, or they're not, or less probably not true, right? Or they're just less well thought of. There are those views out there, but a lot of views, probably majority of views people have on things, are a little bit more, we're trying to still figure them out. Or at least, it's the sort of thing that one should hear someone out on, I think, before making snap judgments. And again, in my life, there's other dimensions to arrogance, of course. There's the monetary, socioeconomic status thing. You can get there's just being a meanie when you're younger, right? There's the in-crowd clique thing. There's a lot of different dimensions to the subject. And so it's so often, by the way, when a lot of folks go to church and they listen to all this stuff, and if they have the chance to participate in some kind of discussion regarding this subject and other subjects, they don't talk enough about their own life, or they don't apply it to themselves so much, and that's a problem with, I think, Christianity in general. So I hope you guys are able to express thoughts in your life about this subject, things you don't like. I think it's important to say what you don't like, even if not only if they're views that you don't agree with, but also attitudes and arrogant attitudes. I think arrogance is just, it's just, there's just no excuse for it. But you can misread arrogance a lot of times. It's also very true. It's just one of those things that can kind of escalate a situation. Is misunderstanding and sensitivity, and which is fine. What I'm saying is, again, just snap judgments, right? So, I try to watch those snap judgments, try to hear someone out, try to truly understand what someone's trying to say. I think we all could do more of that, and that's just across the board, regardless of what you believe. Anyway, I'll make a few more videos, perhaps, maybe tonight, but talk to you guys later. Leave your thoughts and comments below. Talk to you later.